gang violence and other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, Shadow Realm? It's the Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
We have new details in the investigation into Sunday's tragic St. Roch shootings. During the annual 9-time second line, 2 were killed and 11 were hurt in 2 separate shootings. The coroner's office identified the victims as 21-year-old Rasean Carter and 19-year-old Malachi Jackson. Amelia Strahan spoke to law enforcement officials who warned that there's no way out for the shooters.
The likelihood of you being caught is very, very great.
2 days after 2 deadly shootings in the St. Roch neighborhood, Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick says NOPD is making headway in their investigation.
We still have leads that we are not sharing with you. And so we know that we are close to making arrests in this situation.
On Tuesday, NOPD Captain Jennifer Dupree told media the 2 shootings were not related. Since Sunday, Dupree says they've arrested a person of interest, issued 8 search warrants, and collected 4 guns.
So we have another mass shooting in the community, 2 dead, 11 injured. And this is a tragedy. I guess they convened for the annual second line celebration, which I'm not completely sure exactly what that is, but I'm sure it is a large gathering that I have adamantly and repeatedly told you guys to avoid. Large gatherings in the community are no longer safe because these super gremlins are on demon time.
The charges have not been in relation to the shooting, but again, he is a person of interest.
The first shots were fired around 3:30 Sunday afternoon as thousands gathered along Almonaster Avenue to celebrate the annual 9-time second line. In the first shooting, no one was killed, but 10 people were injured. Around 45 minutes later, shots rang out again, this time at Almonaster Avenue and Florida Avenue Bridge. 2 people were killed and another was injured. The coroner's office identified the victims as 21-year-old Rasean Carter and 19-year-old Malachi Jackson.
Wow.
According to Kirkpatrick, all parades are gun-free zones, and around 100 NOPD officers were...
So y'all see this? I mean, oh Lord. This is exactly what I am warning about. These large gatherings in the community. I mean, look at how many people these are. It's not safe, dog. I keep trying to tell you. I don't know how else to tell you. But this many people in one area from the community, it's a no-go zone.
NOPD officers were on patrol at Sunday's second line.
Second lines are a part of our culture. They're going to remain a part of our culture. The issue is keeping them safe.
Both NOPD and District Attorney Jason Williams say if you know anything, the time to come forward is right now.
I'm not looking for thoughts and prayers. I'm looking for tips and leads. It is time to tell it. It is time to step up.
There were thousands.
So Jason Williams, the mayor, is asking people to step up, or the district attorney rather is asking people to step up. Are we going to get that? Probably not. Street code, no snitch rule is in full effect. Men, women, all from the black community are abiding by this.
Thousands of people out there. Someone saw this.
In New Orleans, Amelia Strahan, WWL, Louisiana.
And according to NOPD, there have been more than a dozen second line events this year and 0 reports of gun violence prior to Sunday. So the second line was designated a gun-free zone. That is because it was a permitted parade. The NOPD said they even arrested one person with a gun at the parade Sunday, separate from the shootings. Here's a look at some of the other places. They're on your screen. This is where firearms are not allowed at any time. That includes police.
So this just goes to show that the gun laws don't work, because any attempt at prohibiting these firearms obviously epically failed in this instance.
Stations and government buildings, the state capitol, churches, schools, and any business that allows alcohol consumption, including bars and restaurants. In New Orleans, the gun-free zones also extend for 1,000 feet around any school. Firearms are illegal on school buses as well. Punishments include a fine of up to $1,000, 6 months in prison, or both. And we will have continuing coverage of this investigation into the second line shootings. You can find the latest updates on our website, our free smartphone app, as well as our social media pages.
All right, Devin, thank you so much. Breaking tonight at 6, we are learning the identities of the two young men who lost their lives just minutes apart amid the second line shooting yesterday evening. The family is telling us that the two were related.
WGSU reporter Shay O'Connor joins us now live from Almanastra in Florida, where everything unfolded yesterday. Shay, the family has to be devastated.
That's absolutely correct, Gina. Good evening to you both. The family tells me they're way too shaken up to speak right now, but tell me that Jackson and Carter were actually nephew and uncle, but more like brothers. Family and friends mourning the loss of two young men, 19-year-old Malachi Jackson and 21-year-old Rasean Carter. While too hurt to speak on camera, family told WDSU the men were well loved by all who knew them. Relatives say the men were shot and killed Sunday evening as they were attending the 9-time second line in a hail of gunfire.
We heard that there was a shooting across the bridge.
Shanice Holland says she was enjoying herself when she heard about the violence.
And when I heard that this was happening and that somebody can possibly still be living, I just felt like I needed to do something. I would expect if it was my children that somebody would go and do that.
Hollins, who is a former trauma nurse, says she ran over as quickly as she could when she heard about the two men on the ground, seen here administering CPR. She says Malachi had no pulse while Rasean was still fighting for his life.
And I'm sorry, but CPR doesn't work for gunshot wounds. I don't know who needs to tell the community this, but it's kind of, you know, if you're not going to stop the bleeding and cover up the wound, then you're pressing on the body and you're pushing that blood out, making him die even faster. I just don't understand the logic behind pressing on the chest of a victim who was shot before stopping the bleeding.
She says she did all she could do to help.
And there was like two other young ladies out there. One was attempting CPR, and I let them know that I worked trauma before, and I felt like I would have been a better suit to help with the situation. So we started rotating. Doing compression.
Holland says she still wishes New Orleans police had more resources.
But we were doing compressions, but we didn't have ambu bags, which we couldn't give him breath. So I elevated his head to try to help give him some air, but it wasn't a success, and I'm sorry, and my heart goes out to his family.
This is many are outraged at how what was supposed to be a day of fun turned into mayhem in the 9th Ward.
Woo, look at that crowd. I mean, large gatherings in the community, I don't know how many times I gotta say it, but they're not safe. We need to put a hiatus on them until further notice, until we are able to get control of the violence in our communities, and until then we're not really going to be able to make significant change and really have the functions or the parties or the celebrations, the cultural celebrations that we're so excited about having every year.
Thousands were out celebrating the 9th Ward holiday.
But this is a legacy everybody looks forward to. And it's upsetting, you know. I hope whoever done it turned himself in.
That was actually just the president of the Desire Florida Association. She just wanted to reiterate how normally peaceful these second lines or this annual second line is every year. I also reached out to NOPD when it comes to the claims made by the former nurse about the situation when it comes to resources. Meanwhile, the family of the two men have set up a fundraiser in their honor. You can visit our website, WDSU.com, for more on this and how you can donate. Reporting live from the 9th Ward, Shay O'Connor, WDSU News.
The investigation into we have new details in the investigation into Sunday's tragic St. Roch shootings. During the annual 9-time second line, 2 were killed and 11 were hurt in 2 separate shootings. The coroner's office identified the victims as 21-year-old Rasean Carter and 19-year-old Malachi Jackson. Amelia Strahan spoke to law enforcement officials who warned that there's no way out for the shooters.
The likelihood of you being caught is very, very great.
2 days after 2 deadly shootings in the St. Roch neighborhood, Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick says NOPD is making headway in their investigation.
We still have leads that we are not sharing with you. And so we know that we are close to making arrests in this situation.
On Tuesday, NOPD Captain Jennifer Dupree told media the 2 shootings were not related. Since Sunday, Dupree says they've arrested a person of interest, issued 8 search warrants, and collected 4 guns.
The charges have not been in relation to the shooting, but again, he is a person of interest.
The first shots were fired around 3:30 Sunday afternoon as thousands gathered along Almonaster Avenue to celebrate the annual 9-time second line. In the first shooting, no one was killed, but 10 people were injured. Around 45 minutes later, shots rang out again, this time at Almonaster Avenue and Florida Avenue Bridge. 2 people were killed and another was injured. The coroner's office identified the victims as 21-year-old Rasean Carter and 19-year-old Malachi Jackson. According to Kirkpatrick, all parades are gun-free zones, and around 100 NOPD officers were on patrol at Sunday's second line.
Second lines are a part of our culture. They're going to remain a part of our culture. The issue is keeping them safe.
100 NOPD officers were on patrol at Sunday's second line.
Second line.
Yeah, and that is an issue. But can you keep them safe unless you're patting people down and, you know, wanding them down with metal detecting wands, but then they're going to call you racist? So, I mean, should it really be a part of the culture if these gatherings are so dangerous for the community and anybody else who plans on participating? You wouldn't catch me dead at this second line celebration. I would have said, oh yeah, this thing getting shot up. At first glance, I'm thinking that.
Lines are a part of our culture. They're going to remain a part of our culture. The issue is keeping them safe.
Both NOPD and District Attorney Jason Williams say if you know anything, the time to come forward is right now.
I'm not looking for thoughts and prayers. I'm looking for tips and leads. It is time to tell it. It is time to step up.
There were thousands of people out there. Someone saw this.
In New Orleans, Amelia Strahan, WWL, Louisiana.
And according to NOPD, there have been more than a dozen second line events this year and 0 reports of gun violence prior to Sunday. So the second line was designated a gun-free zone. That is because it was a permitted parade. The NOPD said they even
At least they got permits for this one.
Arrested one person with a gun at the parade Sunday, separate from the shootings. Here's a look at some of the other places. They're on your screen. This is where firearms are not allowed at any time. That includes police stations and government buildings, the state capitol, churches, schools, and any business that allows alcohol consumption, including bars and restaurants. In New Orleans, the gun-free zones also extend for 1,000 feet around any school. Firearms are illegal on school buses as well. Punishments include a fine of up to $1,000, 6 months in prison, or both. And we will have continuing coverage of this investigation into the second line shootings. You can find the latest updates on our website, our free smartphone app, as well as our social media pages.
What's good, Shadow Realm? It's your boy Jenquavius Jackson, and y'all already know I'm demonetized and shadow banned in this bitch. So if you want to contribute, go to the Cash App, the PayPal, the GoFundMe, or join the Patreon. Also, don't forget to visit the merch store for all your favorite BGZM News 17 gear, including our exclusive Trump is a Blood t-shirt. Go fast before they sell out. They are already flying off the shelves, no cap. And remember, these super gremlins are on demon time.
If you are found to have aided and abetted these perpetrators in any way, you will be prosecuted.
New Orleans.
If you are found to have aided and abetted these perpetrators in any way, you will be prosecuted.
New Orleans police announced a person of interest in connection with Sunday's mass shooting, but police say not on charges related to the shooting that injured 10 people near Almonaster and Franklin Avenue. Investigators say they're reviewing crime cameras to identify the shooters. Chief Ann Kirkpatrick says that she expects to make an arrest soon. Family and friends gathered on the West Bank for a memorial balloon release to remember the two men murdered in a separate shooting Sunday along that second line parade route.
It happened on Almonaster, just blocks away from the mass shooting. Loved ones tell Ashland Brothers the two brought joy and light to so many lives.
So we have another balloon release. This has become pretty much customary for the community, and it's unfortunate that we have to keep going through the same process without learning from our prior mistakes. But I think this is what it's going to take. The anguish, the pain, the despair, and the awakening all coincide. So we must be vigilant, for one, about what situations we are putting ourselves in, how we are, engaging in activities that are going on throughout the community, because right now it's just not safe, man. I really don't understand how to get it through people's heads, but we have created an unsafe environment for our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, uncles, cousins, aunties, and it's something that we are going to have to dismantle on our own before, things start to get even worse.
The sound of grief coming from the crowd as family and friends hold tight to the ones they still can.
He's able.
Remembering and honoring relatives, 21-year-old Rasean Carter and 19-year-old Malachi Jackson, affectionately known as Turtle and Pumpkin.
They lived and they loved real hard.
The two Marrero men were gunned down in one of Sunday's two shootings along a second line parade route, an event Carter set out to capture as an aspiring photographer.
Wanted to enjoy the scenery and the culture and be a part of that culture.
Second line for your hood, you go out there, you turn up, do all these little ditty bops and dances and all that. No, ain't no police for no guns, none of that.
Relatives describe Jackson as full of life and joy.
He was just laid back, chill. Turtle was the total opposite. He was the life of the party.
They balanced each other out.
You see one, you see the other one.
Wilbert Kohler lost both his cousin and uncle.
The world crazy.
They all grew up together.
I'm gonna just keep telling them I love them and I love them and I love them.
NOPD Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick is pleading for people to partner with police to help solve this crime as investigators work around the clock searching for leads.
It really is just a matter of time. Plus, there were thousands of people out there. Someone saw this.
District Attorney Jason Williams says someone shooting into a second line is like shooting into a family picnic.
If you give them a ride, if you give them a place to stay, if you give them a piece of bread while they are on the run, you are on the wrong side of the law.
Evelyn McCall says this type of pain never leaves you, but you can find purpose in it.
I could tell a story. I could tell them that it's gonna be okay.
She knows because she's been there.
I know the hurt of a mother. I had two sons murdered, 2012.
McCall says they were shot to death at age 18 and 22.
I know the pain, I know the hurt, I know the anger, I know the waking up at night crying and praying.
There were times she thought she'd never stop crying, but she received help and now she's able to help others.
A family that pray together, stay together. God is a healer, He's a deliverer, He's a way maker out of no way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with this sentiment, but faith without works is dead. So you have to implement some type of, strategy, some type of action plan to avoid these scenarios. And as a community, we're just not warning against, these events that are dangerous.
But the whole key to the matter, you must believe.
The family of Jackson and Carter are asking for donations, prayers that grace be given, and the community be respectful and mindful of their incomprehensible loss. They're condemning violence and leaning into love as they navigate this new reality.
New Orleans police say they've arrested a person of interest after 2 deadly shootings at Sunday's Second Line. Now, they also issued 8 search warrants and collected 4 guns. 10 people were hurt during the first shooting, another injured, and 2 were killed in the second shooting. And remember, Crime Stoppers is offering a $5,000 reward for any information that leads to an arrest.
The investigation into a mass shooting at a Second Line intensifies as a person of interest is now in custody, and tonight the family of 2 victims want you and anyone with information about the shooting to help solve this case that's shaken our community.
WDSU reporter Jonah Gilmore spoke to the family before heading to breaking news.
My cousin said that she begged them not to go. She begged them not to go.
Those pleas turned into a tragedy as plans to attend a family-friendly Second Line ended up being 21-year-old Rasean Carter.
So you heard that. They were begged not to go. Why would a parent, guardian, friend, family member beg anybody in their family not to go to a permitted, sanctioned parade in the black community? I want you guys to sit on that one. Really think about it. Why were they begged not to go? Because even the people in the community knew that it was going to be violent. Op culture, crash out culture. All of these YNs, young ninjas in the vicinity. It's bound to happen. And there was a wise person in their family who separated themselves and said, hey, I ain't going and you shouldn't either. Because these super gremlins are on demon time.
And 19-year-old Malachi Jackson's final moments.
To get that phone call was so, like, it hurted. It really did hurt.
The 2 men, an uncle and nephew, were shot and killed on the Almanaster overpass.
The way we found out, by people calling us, by people posting pictures and videos online.
Just want to encourage somebody.
Tuesday, their family and friends gathered to honor the duo they say were inseparable.
I was just like, it can't be true. I still don't believe it, I just can't.
Wilbur Kohler says his uncle and cousin were a light.
They funny, I ain't gonna cap.
Telling me he admired them and his plans to see them at the Second Line would never happen.
I wasn't out there with them, but I was gonna meet up with them, but I ain't never get to meet up with them.
The victim's family held hands and shed tears, praying for an end to gun violence.
We have to make the difference. We have to make it stop.
Hoping someone can shed light on the murders they say has put their family in a dark space.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. It really did hurt.
Jonah Gilmore, WDSU News.
For the first time since Sunday's deadly Second Line shootings, we're hearing from the family of one of the deceased victims.
Yeah, law enforcement, ministers, and city leaders met this morning to pray with the family and to look for a solution. Amelia Strahan explains how they're working together to create a safer New Orleans.
No mother never have to hear the scream that my mother had to experience and the scream that I heard.
Charlisa Kohler describes hearing her brother scream Sunday, coming from the Almanaster and Florida Avenue Bridge.
I don't want no mother to experience what my mother is experiencing right now.
3 days later, she and her mother stood in the same place where he was murdered.
I'm speechless right now.
Leaning on their faith and community for support.
Comfort our heart, strengthen our Lord, give us strength to stand.
21-year-old Rasean Carter and 19-year-old Malachi Jackson were killed and 11 others injured in one of 2 shootings at the annual 9-time Second Line.
I mean, I'm just looking at the crowd and I don't know how any sane person would have seen this and thought, hey, this is going to be a safe place to go. This is going to be a safe place to party and convene and have a good time. I just don't understand it. You know, with all that's going on in the community and the violence, and the overall apathy toward it, how could you think that this would have been safe? As a parent, how could you send your child to this event? And it's sad that we have to say this, but the large gatherings in the community oftentimes are ending in mass shootings, just as this one did. Because these super gremlins are on demon time.
The incidents happened less than an hour apart, but according to law enforcement, were unrelated. On Wednesday, law enforcement and faith leaders gathered for an emotional call to action, asking the community to work with the NOPD to keep our streets safe.
It's getting into communities in the neighborhood level, walking that community with a message of peace.
According to Councilmember Oliver Thomas, protecting Second Line should be a top priority for the city.
How do we have safe, productive events that represent the history of New Orleans?
So we went straight to the top. At an event Wednesday, we tried asking Mayor LaToya Cantrell how the city plans to keep Second Line safe in light of Sunday's tragedy. Mayor Cantrell refused to comment on Sunday's shootings, and her director of communications, Terry Davis, said she would post a video online later. Could you just tell us why she wants to make the comment on a video but not directly to the media?
Because that's what we've chosen to do regarding that.
For Kohler, Second Lines will probably never feel the same, but says protecting them is protecting New Orleans' expression of culture.
I don't want them to stop the culture. I'm not against the culture. I'm against the crime.
In New Orleans, Amelia Strahan, WWL, Louisiana.
Now, New Orleans police say that they have leads in the shooting that happened on Sunday night during a Second Line parade. It killed 2 people, left 11 people injured. And Andres Fuentes, he is live in the 9th Ward, where police say they absolutely need the public's help to find out more information. Andres.
And Lucy, being here not only yesterday evening after those shootings, but today after the NOPD press conference, a lot of people here tight-lipped, and it's just because of the gruesome violence that happened yesterday in this parking lot here on Franklin and Almonester. If we could pan here, you could still see the remnants of this mass shooting that has really sent a lot of tension and a lot of emotions here.
Woo! You got blood stains on the street. Oh, man, I wish that I could have just stopped everybody from going to this event, or at least beefed up security. This parade probably shouldn't have been granted their permits, just based off of the environment and the tumultuous aura that's in the air in black communities right now. It's not safe. It's not okay. And I think the city really needs to do their due diligence on what they're granting permits and sanctioning. And it may even come across as racist. The fact that they should be looking to deny some more of these permits than they grant. But at the end of the day, if it saves lives, then that is the most important thing. You just can't have this. And unfortunately, black men are becoming the face of mass shootings in America. It's not being reported on because our plight does not get highlighted. Therefore, it continues to happen because people literally don't even think this is going on. They don't believe that this is going on, and they don't believe the majority of mass shootings in the country are happening in the community. They just don't understand it. They can't conceptualize it. They can't they can't quantify it. It's just something that they, maybe it's cognitive dissonance, but it's something that they don't want to admit that or acknowledge that there's an issue going on. And if you don't acknowledge, you won't have any way of fixing it.
Throughout St. Roch. Now, the information that we do know thus far is that the total number of casualties for these 2 separate shootings now 13. The NOPD says around 3:30 yesterday afternoon, police in the area for a second line here in St. Roch rushed to this parking lot after shots rang out. The amount of victims from this shooting is now up to 10. None of them are dead, according to police. 45 minutes later, another shooting happened just a few blocks away near Almonaster and Florida Avenue. Now, that area was blocked off due to that second line. 2 people died in that shooting and another person was injured. Looking at the recent information from NOPD, the age range for both of these shootings, there was a woman, 71 years old, who was shot here in the area. There was also a victim as young as 20 years old, also among the victims in both of these shootings. Now, the police chief says that she's really pleading with the thousands of people that were here for the second line and the hundreds that stuck around after both of those shootings to come forward with whatever information they might have.
We don't need your name. What we need is your information. We are actively working this case. We do have leads, and we will find the perpetrators. You will be held accountable.
And speaking with Crime Stoppers today, they tell me that only 2 people have come forward with tips on either of these shootings, and they know that there are more.
So there were thousands of people at the event, and only 2 people have come forward with tips. This is the no snitch, no street code in full effect. Thousands of people at this event, and less than 1% are willing to cooperate with the police. This is a huge sample size that gives us an idea of just how unwilling the black community is to working with police and solving this crime issue.
Or people with either cell phone video or photos with information with ties to both of these shootings, and they're asking those people to come forward and share what they do know. Now, about the victims, there are 11 that were shot and injured. NOPD says that they're in stable condition right now in the hospital. Those 2 deceased victims, we're still waiting on more information about exactly who they are. Hopefully we'll be getting that information to you, and we'll be updating you both on air and online. But for now, reporting live, Andres Fuentes, Fox 8, Local First.
Gang violence and other kind of violence. So it is what it is.